Welcome back. Imagine finding a penny in your pocket that looks completely ordinary, yet hidden within its tiny details is a story that connects you to history, craftsmanship, and even the possibility of unexpected value. Today, we're diving into one of those coins, the 1971 Mint Mark Lincoln penny, and uncovering why collectors still search for it decades later. The 1971 Lincoln penny is a 1-cent coin produced at the San Francisco Mint. At first glance, it doesn't look much different from other pennies of its time. It carries the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. But what makes this coin interesting is not just where it was made, but how it was made and what versions exist. To understand this coin, we need to go back to 1971. The United States was in a time of change. The country had recently moved away from silver in most of its coinage, and copper-based coins like the penny became even more important for everyday transactions. The San Francisco Mint, which had once been known mainly for producing circulating coins, had shifted its role. By the late 1960s and early 1970s, it was primarily focused on producing proof coins, special coins made for collectors. That's where the 1971 penny becomes unique. Unlike pennies from Philadelphia or Denver, the ones with the S mint mark were mostly made as proof coins. These were not meant for everyday use. Instead, they were carefully struck using polished dies and specially prepared planchets, giving them a mirror-like finish and sharp details. They were sold in proof sets to collectors who wanted something more refined than regular pocket change. Now let's take a closer look at the coin itself. The front, or obverse, features Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. His profile faces to the right, with the words "In God We Trust" above, "Liberty" to the left, and the year 1971, along with the small S mint mark just below the date. On the back, or reverse, you'll see the Lincoln Memorial, introduced in 1959 to celebrate Lincoln's 150th birthday. If you look very closely, you can even see a tiny representation of Lincoln sitting inside the memorial. The metal composition of the 1971 penny is mostly copper, about 95%, with the remaining 5% made up of tin and zinc. This gives the coin its classic reddish-brown color when new. Over time, depending on how it's stored, the coin can tone into shades of brown or even develop attractive hues that collectors often appreciate. What really sets the 1971 penny apart is the difference between proof coins and regular strike coins. Proof coins have a deep, mirror-like background and frosted designs that seem to pop out. These are often called cameo or even deep cameo coins when the contrast is especially strong. This visual effect is one of the main reasons collectors are drawn to them. But beyond the standard proof versions, there are also varieties and errors that make certain 1971 pennies much more valuable. One of the most talked about features is the quality of the strike. Some proof coins from this year show incredibly sharp details, while others may appear slightly weaker due to die wear or production issues. There are also minor varieties involving the mint mark itself. In some cases, the S mint mark may appear slightly different in shape or position. While these differences might seem small, collectors often study them closely, and certain variations can command higher prices. Now let's talk about value. Most 1971 proof pennies are not extremely rare. Millions were made, and many have been preserved in proof sets. In average condition, these coins might only be worth a few dollars. However, the story changes when you find one in exceptional condition. Coins graded at the highest levels, especially those with deep cameo contrast, can sell for significantly more. In some cases, top-quality examples have sold for hundreds of dollars at auction. The value depends heavily on the coin's condition, its eye appeal, and how well it has been preserved over the years. There are also error coins to consider. While major errors are not very common for this year, any unusual feature, such as doubling in the lettering, off-center strikes, or planchet issues, can increase the coin's value. These errors are closely examined by collectors and grading companies, and when verified, they can turn an ordinary-looking penny into something truly special. If you're wondering how to tell if you have a real 1971 proof penny, there are a few simple things to look for. First, check the mint mark. It should be a small S located just below the date. Next, look at the surface of the coin. A genuine proof coin will have a smooth, mirror-like background and very sharp details. The edges should be crisp, and the overall appearance should feel more refined than a regular coin, It's also important to watch out for cleaned or damaged coins. Some people try to make ordinary coins look more valuable by polishing them, but this actually reduces their value. A true proof coin will have its original finish intact, without scratches or unnatural shine. For those who want extra certainty, professional grading services can authenticate and grade the coin. These services assign a numerical grade based on condition and can also identify special features like cameo contrast. While this process costs money, it can be worthwhile if you believe your coin is of high quality. Here's a fun detail that many people don't realize. The San Francisco Mint stopped producing regular circulation coins for a period of time and focused heavily on proof coins like the 1971 penny. This shift helped create a new generation of collectors who appreciated the artistry and precision of proof coinage. Another interesting fact is that proof coins were often handled with great care right from the start. Workers used gloves, and the coins were placed in protective packaging. Despite this, many coins still developed small imperfections over time due to storage conditions, which is why perfectly preserved examples are so desirable today. Collectors love the 1971 penny for several reasons. It represents a moment in U.S. coin history when the focus was shifting toward collectors rather than just everyday use. It also offers a chance to own a coin with beautiful design and craftsmanship without spending a fortune. And for those who enjoy the thrill of the hunt, finding a high-grade or unusual example can be incredibly rewarding. There's also something timeless about the Lincoln penny itself. It has been part of American life for over a century, and each version tells a small piece of that story. The 1971 penny, with its proof quality and connection to the San Francisco Mint, adds another chapter to that legacy. So the next time you come across an old coin set or even a loose penny with an S mint mark, take a closer look. You might be holding more than just a piece of copper. You might be holding a carefully crafted coin that has traveled through time, waiting for someone to notice its details and appreciate its story. And that's what makes coin collecting so fascinating. It's not just about value. It's about discovery, history, and the excitement of seeing something ordinary in a completely new way. Because sometimes, the smallest coins carry the biggest stories. Welcome back. What if the small, ordinary penny sitting in your pocket right now was quietly holding more value than you ever imagined? Not because it looks different, not because it shines brighter, but because of something almost invisible, something as simple as what's missing. Today, we're talking about the 1973 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, a coin that millions of people have handled, spent, and ignored for decades. At first glance, it doesn't seem special. It looks like every other penny from that era. But once you understand its story, its details, and the hidden factors collectors look for, you might never look at your spare change the same way again. The 1973 Lincoln penny is part of one of the most familiar coin series in American history, the Lincoln cent. First introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, it was the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure. By 1973, this design had already been in circulation for over 60 years, making it one of the most recognizable coins in the country. Now, when we say no mint mark, it doesn't mean something is missing by accident. It actually tells us where the coin was made. In 1973, pennies were primarily produced at the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. Coins from Denver carry a small D mint mark, while coins from Philadelphia, at that time, had no mint mark at all. So a 1973 penny with no mint mark simply means it was minted in Philadelphia. That might sound common, and in many ways it is. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 3.8 billion pennies in 1973. That's a massive number, and it means most of these coins are still relatively easy to find today. But here's where things get interesting. Not all 1973 no mint mark pennies are created equal. To understand why, we need to look closer at what these coins are made of and how they were produced. The 1973 Lincoln penny is composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc. This gives it that classic reddish-brown color that many people associate with older pennies. It also means these coins have a certain weight and feel that's different from modern pennies, which are mostly made of zinc with a thin copper coating. On the front of the coin, you'll see the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. Above his head is the word Liberty, and in front of him is the date, 1973. The phrase "In God We Trust" arches across the top. On the back, you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959. If you look closely, you can even see a tiny representation of Lincoln seated inside the memorial, a detail many people never noticed so far. Everything sounds pretty standard. But collectors don't just look at coins as everyday objects. They look for differences, imperfections, and rare variations. And that's where the value of a 1973 no-mint mark penny can start to rise. One of the key factors is condition. Most 1973 pennies have been heavily circulated. They've passed through countless hands, been dropped, scratched, and worn down over time. These coins are usually worth only their face value or maybe a few cents more. But if you find one in uncirculated condition, meaning it was never used in everyday transactions, the value can increase significantly. A bright, clean 1973 penny with sharp details and original luster can be worth several dollars, sometimes even more depending on its grade. Then there are error coins. This is where things get really exciting. During the minting process, mistakes can happen. These errors are often rare and highly sought after by collectors. For the 1973 no-mint mark penny, some known errors include double die obverse, where the lettering or date appears slightly doubled, and off-center strikes, where the design is not perfectly aligned on the coin. There are also cases of coins being struck on the wrong type of metal planchet. These are extremely rare but can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars if verified. Imagine finding a penny that looks normal at first glance but turns out to be a rare mint error. That's the kind of discovery that keeps collectors searching. In terms of real value, most standard 1973 no-mint mark pennies in average condition are worth between 1 and 5 cents. But in higher grades, especially those graded by professional services, prices can climb. For example, a 1973 penny graded MS-65, which means it's in near-perfect condition, can sell for around $10 to $20. Higher grades like MS-67 can reach over $100, depending on demand and eye appeal. Error coins, however, are in a different category. A strong double die example or a dramatic off-center strike can sell for several $100s. Rare and unique errors can go even higher, especially if they are well documented and authenticated. Now, you might be wondering how to tell if you have a valuable 1973 penny. The first step is to check the date and confirm there is no mint mark under the date. That tells you it's from Philadelphia. Next, examine the coin closely under good lighting. Look for sharp details, original shine, and minimal wear. The better the condition, the higher the potential value. Then, look for signs of errors. Check the lettering, especially Liberty, and In God We Trust, for any doubling. Look at the edges of the coin to see if the design is off-center. Weighing the coin can also help, since a standard 1973 penny should weigh about 3.11 grams. Any significant difference could indicate something unusual. It's also important to be cautious about cleaning coins. Many people think cleaning will make a coin more valuable, but in reality, it often does the opposite. Cleaning can damage the surface and reduce the coin's value in the eyes of collectors. As for spotting fakes, most 1973 pennies are not commonly counterfeited because they are so widely available. However, altered coins do exist. Some people may try to modify a coin to make it look like an error or a higher grade piece. That's why serious collectors often rely on professional grading services to authenticate and grade their coins. Here's a fun detail that surprises many people. Because the 1973 penny is made mostly of copper, its metal value can sometimes be close to or even higher than its face value, depending on copper prices. In fact, there have been times when people started saving older pennies for their metal content alone. Another interesting fact is that the Lincoln Memorial design on the back was replaced in 2009 with new designs celebrating Lincoln's life, and then later with the Union Shield design in 2010. That means the 1973 penny is part of a long but now completed chapter in U.S. coin design history. Collectors love the 1973 no-mint mark penny not because it is extremely rare, but because it represents a moment in time. It's a piece of everyday history, a coin that millions of Americans used during the early 1970s, a period of major cultural and economic change. Holding one is like holding a small piece of that era. For new collectors, it's also an accessible entry point. You don't need a huge budget to start collecting Lincoln pennies. You can search through your own change, coin rolls, or old jars and slowly build a collection. And every now and then, you might come across something special. There's also a certain thrill in the hunt. The idea that a valuable coin could be hiding in plain sight keeps people searching. It turns something ordinary into something exciting. And that's really what coin collecting is all about. So the next time you see a 1973 penny with no mint mark, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look. Check its condition. Look for those tiny details that most people overlook. Because while many of these coins are common, a few are anything but. And somewhere out there, in a jar, a drawer, or even your pocket, there could be a 1973 penny waiting to be discovered. One that tells a story far more valuable than a single cent. Now imagine how many other coins like this are still out there, quietly circulating, unnoticed, each with its own hidden story and potential. The question is, how many have you already passed by without ever knowing? Welcome back. Imagine picking up a simple penny from your pocket, something you might normally ignore, only to discover it could be worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars. Sounds unbelievable, right? But for some collectors, that reality begins with a small detail on a 1992 D Lincoln penny. The 1992 D mint mark Lincoln penny is one of those coins that looks completely ordinary at first glance. It carries the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. It was produced in Denver, which is what the small D mint mark below the date represents. Millions of these pennies were made, and most are only worth 1 cent. But hidden among them are extremely rare variations that have captured the attention of collectors across the country. To understand why this coin matters, we need to go back to the early 1990s. In 1992, the United States Mint was producing billions of pennies every year. These coins were made mainly for everyday use, not for collectors. At the time, the penny was still composed mostly of zinc with a thin copper coating, a change that had been introduced in 1982 to reduce production costs. The design, created decades earlier by Victor David Brenner, remained largely unchanged, featuring Lincoln's profile on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Everything about the 1992 penny seemed routine. But sometimes, it's the smallest changes that make the biggest difference. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 1992 D Lincoln penny is a rare design variation known as the close AM. On the reverse side of the coin, the letters A and M in the word America are supposed to have a noticeable gap between them. However, on a small number of 1992 pennies, these letters appear much closer together, almost touching. This detail may sound minor, but it's incredibly important. The reason this variation exists is tied to how coin dies are made. A die is a metal stamp used to strike the design onto blank coins. Sometimes, dies intended for proof coins, which are specially made for collectors, are accidentally used for regular circulation coins. Proof coins often have slightly different design features, including the spacing of letters. When one of these proof dies was mistakenly used to produce regular 1992 pennies, it created the rare close AM variety. For collectors, this is where things get exciting. The 1992 D close AM penny is considered one of the key modern rarities in the Lincoln Cent series. It's not rare because of its age, but because of this specific minting mistake. Only a small number have ever been discovered, and that scarcity is what drives its value. In terms of real-world value, these coins can sell for surprising amounts. While a normal 1992 D penny might be worth just a few cents, a genuine close AM version in good condition can fetch hundreds of dollars. In higher grades, especially coins that have been well preserved and show minimal wear, prices can climb into the thousands. Some verified examples have sold for over $10,000 at major auctions, making it one of the most valuable pennies from the 1990s. But here's the challenge. Finding one isn't easy. These coins are still out there, mixed in with ordinary pennies, but identifying them requires careful attention to detail. If you want to check your own 1992 D pennies, start by looking closely at the reverse side. Focus on the word America. On a standard coin, the A and M will have a clear gap between them. On a close AM variety, those letters will appear almost connected. You may need a magnifying glass or even a microscope to see the difference clearly. Another detail to examine is the FG initials near the base of the Lincoln Memorial. These initials stand for Frank Gasparo, the designer of the reverse. On genuine close AM coins, the placement and style of these initials match the proof design, which can help confirm authenticity. However, because of the high value of these coins, There are also fakes and altered coins in circulation. Some people try to modify regular pennies to make the letters appear closer together. This is why serious collectors often rely on professional grading services. These organizations examine the coin, verify its authenticity, and assign it a grade based on its condition. Having a coin certified can significantly increase its trustworthiness and market value. There are also other interesting features of the 1992 D Lincoln penny that make it worth exploring. For example, variations in strike quality, color, and condition can all affect a coin's value. A bright red coin that looks almost new will typically be worth more than one that is worn or discolored. Collectors often use terms like red, red-brown, and brown to describe the appearance of a coin's surface. Another surprising detail is how long it took for collectors to notice the close AM variety. For years, these coins circulated unnoticed. It wasn't until sharp-eyed collectors began comparing different pennies that the variation was discovered. This highlights an important truth about coin collecting. Sometimes, valuable treasures are hiding in plain sight. There's also a sense of mystery surrounding how many of these coins actually exist. Because they were released into circulation, there's no official record of how many were produced. Estimates vary, but most experts agree that the number is very small compared to the billions of standard pennies made that year. This uncertainty adds to the excitement and appeal for collectors. For many people, the idea that a single penny could be worth so much is what makes coin collecting so fascinating. It turns everyday objects into potential discoveries. You don't need to be a professional to start looking. All it takes is curiosity, patience, and a willingness to pay attention to details that others might overlook. Collectors today love the 1992 D AM penny not just for its value, but for its story. It represents a moment when something went slightly off during the minting process, creating a rare and unexpected result. It's a reminder that even in a system designed for precision, small variations can occur, and those variations can become highly prized over time. There's also a thrill in the hunt. Searching through rolls of pennies, checking each one carefully, and hoping to find that rare detail is an experience that keeps collectors coming back. It's not just about the money. It's about the possibility, the discovery, and the connection to history. And then there's the broader context. The Lincoln penny itself is one of the most iconic coins in American history. First introduced in 1909 to honor Abraham Lincoln, it was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person. Over the decades, it has undergone several design changes, but it has remained a constant presence in everyday life. The 1992 D penny is just one chapter in that long story, but it's a chapter filled with intrigue and hidden value. Even if you never find a close AM variety, the process of searching can change the way you see coins. What once seemed ordinary becomes interesting. Small details become important. And the idea that something valuable could be hiding in your pocket adds a sense of excitement to something as simple as spare change. As we come to the end, think about this. How many pennies have passed through your hands without a second thought? How many of them did you really look at? The 1992 D Lincoln penny reminds us that sometimes the smallest details can hold the biggest surprises. So next time you come across a handful of coins, take a closer look. That ordinary penny might not be so ordinary after all. And who knows? The next time you check the letters in the word America, you might just discover a hidden treasure waiting to be found. Welcome back. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a single penny, and discovering it might be worth far more than 1 cent. Not because it's made of gold, not because it's ancient, but because of a tiny letter stamped on it that most people never even notice. Today, we're uncovering the story behind the 1995 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin that looks ordinary at first glance but holds surprising secrets that collectors are still chasing. The 1995 D Lincoln penny is a 1-cent coin produced in the United States and struck at the Denver Mint, which is what the small d below the date represents. Millions of these coins were made, and many are still in circulation today. That's what makes this story even more interesting. Unlike rare ancient coins locked away in museums, this is a coin that could still be sitting in a jar, a drawer, or even your spare change right now. To understand why this penny matters, we need to go back to its origins. The Lincoln cent itself was first introduced in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln, marking the 100th anniversary of his birth. It was the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure. By 1995, the design had already been in use for decades, making it familiar to almost every American. On the front, you see Lincoln's profile, calm and steady, facing to the right. On the back, you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, a symbol of unity and history. The year 1995 was not particularly unusual in terms of coin production. In fact, the Denver Mint struck over 7 billion pennies that year. That number alone might make you think there's nothing special here. But in the world of coin collecting, rarity isn't always about how many were made. Sometimes it's about the small differences, the tiny mistakes, and the hidden variations that only a careful eye can spot. The 1995 D penny is made mostly of zinc with a thin copper coating. This composition had been used since 1982 to reduce production costs. The coin weighs about 2.5 grams and has a bright copper color when new, though it often darkens over time. At first glance, there's nothing unusual about its appearance. But when you look closer, especially under magnification, you might begin to notice something interesting. One of the most talked about aspects of the 1995 penny series is the double die variety, particularly the 1995 double die obverse. While this variety is more commonly associated with coins from the Philadelphia Mint, collectors still examine Denver minted coins carefully for any signs of doubling or unusual features. A double die occurs when the coin's design is stamped more than once in slightly different positions, creating a visible doubling effect on letters or numbers. Although a true major double die is rare on the 1995 D penny, minor doubling and machine doubling can still appear. These subtle differences can sometimes confuse beginners, but experienced collectors know how to tell them apart. A genuine double die will show clear, separated lines, especially on the date and the word Liberty. Machine doubling, on the other hand, often looks flat and less defined. Another factor that can increase the value of a 1995 D penny is its condition. Coins are graded on a scale that ranges from heavily worn to perfect mint state. A penny that has never been circulated, meaning it has no visible wear, sharp details, and strong original color, can be worth significantly more than one that has been used for years. For example, a typical circulated 1995 D penny is only worth its face value, 1 cent. But if you find one in uncirculated condition, it could be worth a few cents to a few dollars. Now here's where it gets interesting. High-grade examples, especially those graded at the very top levels like MS67 or higher, can sell for much more. Some have reached prices between $50 to over $100 depending on their quality and eye appeal. There have also been cases where exceptionally well-preserved coins with strong luster and no visible flaws have attracted competitive bidding among collectors. These coins stand out because they are rare in condition, even if they are common in quantity. In other words, it's not just about finding the coin, it's about finding the right version of that coin. So how can you tell if you have a valuable 1995 D penny? Start by checking the date and the mint mark. Look for the small d under the year 1995. Then examine the coin under good lighting. A magnifying glass or a simple coin loop can help you see finer details. Look closely at the letters in Liberty and In God We Trust. If you notice any unusual doubling or sharp, clean lines, you might have something worth investigating further. Next, check the overall condition. Is the coin shiny or dull? Are the details on Lincoln's face clear and well-defined? Can you see the fine lines in the Lincoln Memorial on the back? The more detail you can see, the better the condition, and the higher the potential value. It's also important to be cautious about cleaning coins. Many people think cleaning a coin will make it more valuable, but in reality, it often does the opposite. Cleaning can scratch the surface and remove the original finish, which collectors value highly. A cleaned coin is usually worth less than one in its natural state. Another tip is to compare your coin with verified examples. Online resources, coin catalogs, and grading services can provide images and descriptions that help you understand what to look for. If you believe you have a high-quality or unusual coin, you might consider having it professionally graded. This process involves experts evaluating the coin and assigning it an official grade, which can increase its credibility and market value. Now let's talk about some fun and surprising details. Did you know that billions of pennies are produced each year, yet only a tiny fraction are ever collected? Most people spend them without a second thought. That means valuable coins can slip through everyday transactions unnoticed. It's entirely possible that a rare or high-grade 1995 D penny has passed through countless hands without anyone realizing its potential. Another interesting fact is that coin collecting is one of the oldest hobbies in the world. People have been collecting coins for centuries, not just for their value, but for their history and the stories they tell. Each coin is like a small piece of time, a snapshot of the year it was made. Collectors love the 1995 D penny not because it's the rarest coin ever produced, but because it represents the thrill of discovery. It's a reminder that even the most common objects can hold hidden value. It also appeals to beginners because it's accessible. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars to start collecting. Sometimes, all it takes is a careful look at the change in your pocket. There's also a sense of challenge involved. Finding a high-grade coin among billions of others requires patience, attention to detail, and a bit of luck. That combination keeps collectors engaged and constantly searching. In today's world, where digital transactions are becoming more common, physical coins are slowly becoming less visible in daily life. That makes the hunt for valuable coins even more exciting. Each penny you find could be one step closer to discovering something special. As we come to the end of this story, take a moment to think about the coins you've seen today. How many times have you overlooked a penny without a second thought? How many might still be waiting to be discovered? The 1995 D Lincoln penny may seem small and ordinary, but it carries a quiet mystery. Somewhere out there, a nearly perfect example could be sitting unnoticed, holding value far beyond its face. And the next time you pick up a penny, you might just wonder if this is the one that changes everything. Welcome back. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a simple penny, and realizing that this tiny coin could be worth far more than just 1 cent. It sounds almost unbelievable, but for some collectors, that moment is very real. And today, we're diving into the story of the 2004 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, a coin that looks ordinary but hides details that many people completely overlook. At first glance, the 2004 penny doesn't seem special. It carries the familiar face of Abraham Lincoln on the front, a design that has been part of American coins for over a century. But the phrase "no mint mark" is what catches the attention of curious collectors. Many people assume that a missing mint mark means an error or something rare. But is that really true? Or is there more to the story? To understand this coin, we need to go back to the year 2004. This was a time when the United States Mint was producing billions of pennies every year. The Lincoln penny itself has a long history, first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. By 2004, the design had already become one of the most recognized coins in the world. The front, known as the obverse, still featured Lincoln's portrait designed by Victor David Brenner. The back, or reverse, displayed the Lincoln Memorial, a design that had been in place since 1959. Now, here's where things get interesting. When a penny has no mint mark, it simply means it was made at the Philadelphia Mint. Unlike other U.S. mint facilities like Denver, which uses a D, or San Francisco, which uses an S, Philadelphia coins traditionally did not carry a mint mark for most of history. So, a 2004 penny without a mint mark is not an error by default. It is actually the standard version produced in Philadelphia. But that doesn't mean all 2004 no mint mark pennies are the same. In fact, some of them can be quite valuable depending on their condition and certain hidden features. These pennies are made from a composition of 97.5% zinc with a thin copper coating, giving them that familiar reddish-brown color. However, over time, many of these coins lose their shine, get scratched, or become dull from circulation. That's why collectors pay close attention to condition. A coin that looks brand new, with its original luster intact, is called an uncirculated coin. And for the 2004 no mint mark penny, this is where value begins to increase. While most circulated examples are only worth 1 cent, a high-grade uncirculated version can sell for several dollars, sometimes even more if it is graded at the highest levels. But condition isn't the only factor. There are also error coins. These are coins that were struck incorrectly during the minting process. For the 2004 penny, collectors have discovered a range of errors that can make certain pieces extremely desirable. These include off-center strikes, double dies where the design appears slightly duplicated, and even coins with unusual surface flaws caused during production. For example, a 2004 penny with a strong double die effect on the lettering or Lincoln's profile can attract serious attention. Some of these error coins have sold for tens or even hundreds of dollars depending on how clear and dramatic the error is. In rare cases, major mint errors can push the value even higher, especially when verified by professional grading services. Now let's talk about real value examples. While most 2004 no-mint mark pennies are common, there have been auction listings where pristine, high-grade coins graded MS-67 or higher have sold for over $50 to $100. Error coins, depending on the type and visibility, have reached similar or even higher prices. These numbers may not sound life-changing, but they show how even a modern penny can become collectible under the right conditions. So how can you tell if you have one of these valuable coins? The first step is to check the date and mint mark. Look just below the year 2004 on the front of the coin. If there is no letter, it means it was minted in Philadelphia. Next, examine the coin closely under good lighting. Look for any unusual details like doubling in the letters, misaligned designs, or anything that looks different from a normal penny. Another important factor is the coin's surface. A valuable coin will usually have minimal scratches, a strong shine, and sharp details. If Lincoln's hair and facial features are clearly defined, that's a good sign. If the coin looks worn or faded, it's likely been in circulation and will not carry much extra value. Some collectors also use magnifying glasses or microscopes to inspect coins more carefully. This helps in spotting tiny errors that are not visible to the naked eye. If you believe you have something special, you can send the coin to a professional grading service. These organizations evaluate the coin's condition and authenticity, then assign it a grade that helps determine its market value. Here's something many people don't realize. Even though billions of 2004 pennies were made, very few survive in perfect condition. Most coins are used in everyday transactions, which causes wear and tear. That means truly flawless examples become rare over time, simply because so few people thought to preserve them when they were new. There are also some fun and surprising facts about the 2004 penny. For instance, it was produced during a period when the U.S. Mint was preparing for a major design change. Just a few years later, in 2009, the reverse design of the Lincoln penny would change to celebrate the bicentennial of Lincoln's birth. This makes the 2004 penny part of the final years of the Lincoln Memorial design era, adding a bit of historical significance. Another interesting detail is how many people misunderstand the term no mint mark. Some believe it automatically means rarity or a minting mistake. In reality, it's simply a reflection of where the coin was made. But this misunderstanding has actually fueled curiosity and interest, bringing more attention to coins like the 2004 penny. Collectors today love this coin not because every example is rare, but because it represents opportunity. It's a coin that anyone can find. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars at an auction. You just need patience, a careful eye, and a bit of curiosity. The idea that something valuable could be hiding in your loose change is what makes coin collecting so exciting. For beginners, the 2004 no mint mark penny is a perfect starting point. It teaches you how to observe details, understand mint marks, and recognize the importance of condition. For experienced collectors, it offers the thrill of hunting for errors and high-grade examples that stand out from the rest. And here's the part that keeps people searching. Every day, coins are still being discovered. Someone, somewhere, might find a 2004 penny with a rare error or in near-perfect condition, completely by accident. That possibility is what keeps collectors checking their change, visiting coin shops, and exploring rolls of pennies from banks. So the next time you come across a 2004 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look. Examine the details. Because while most of these coins are common, a small number carry hidden value that only reveals itself to those who know what to look for. And who knows? The next penny you pick up might not just be spare change. It could be the beginning of a discovery that changes the way you see coins forever. Welcome back. What if I told you that a simple penny from 2013, the kind most people ignore or even throw away, could quietly hold more value than you ever imagined? Not because it's made of gold, not because it looks special at first glance, but because of the tiny details most people never notice. Today, we're talking about the 2013 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, a coin that millions of people have handled, yet very few truly understand. At first, this coin doesn't seem unusual. It's a modern penny, something you might get as change at a grocery store or find sitting at the bottom of a drawer. But the story behind it and the subtle features it carries make it far more interesting than it appears. The 2013 Lincoln penny is part of the long-running Lincoln cent series, one of the most recognizable coins in American history. The design itself dates back to 1909, when President Abraham Lincoln first appeared on a U.S. coin to celebrate his 100th birthday. Since then, the coin has gone through several design changes on the reverse side, each marking a different era in American history. By 2013, the reverse design had already changed to what collectors call the Union Shield. This design was introduced in 2010 and represents the unity of the United States, with a shield and a banner across it. The obverse, or front, still features the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln, a design that has become iconic over more than a century. Now here's where things get interesting. The phrase "no mint mark" might sound unusual, but in reality, it tells us something very specific. In the United States, coins are produced at different mint facilities, such as Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Most coins include a small letter that shows where they were made. For example, a D indicates Denver, and an S indicates San Francisco. But when a coin has no mint mark at all, it typically means it was minted in Philadelphia. That's exactly the case with the 2013 no mint mark Lincoln penny. So technically, it's not an error. It's simply a Philadelphia minted coin. And here's the twist. Even though millions of these coins were produced, not all 2013 no mint mark pennies are the same. Some stand out because of their condition, their strike quality, or small variations that most people would never notice. Let's talk about the composition of this coin. The 2013 Lincoln penny is made mostly of zinc, about 97.5%, with a thin copper plating making up the remaining 2.5%. This composition has been used since 1982, when rising copper prices forced the U.S. Mint to switch from solid copper pennies to a more cost-effective design. Because of this zinc core, these coins are more vulnerable to damage over time. You might notice bubbling, corrosion, or discoloration if the copper plating wears away. That means finding a 2013 penny in perfect condition is actually harder than you might think. Now let's move into what really excites collectors: errors and high-grade examples. Most 2013 no mint mark pennies are only worth their face value, but certain versions can be worth significantly more, especially if they have minting errors. These errors can include off-center strikes, double dies, or die cracks. While these are not extremely common, they do exist, and when they are discovered, they can attract serious attention from collectors. For example, a 2013 penny with a strong double die effect, where the design appears slightly duplicated, can sell for anywhere from a few dollars to over $100 depending on the visibility and condition. Off-center strikes, where the coin design is not properly aligned, can also bring in higher prices, especially if the date is still clearly visible. Condition plays a huge role as well. Coins are graded on a scale, with higher grades indicating better preservation. A 2013 no mint mark penny in average circulated condition might only be worth 1 cent. But if you find one in uncirculated condition, meaning it has never been used in everyday transactions, its value can increase. In fact, some 2013 Lincoln pennies graded at the highest levels, such as MS-67 or above, have sold for anywhere between $20 to $100 or more in collector markets. That's a huge jump from a single cent. So how can you tell if your coin is valuable? First, look closely at the surface. A valuable coin will have minimal scratches, no major discoloration, and a strong, sharp design. The details on Lincoln's face, the lettering, and the shield on the reverse should be clear and crisp. Next, check for unusual features. Use a magnifying glass if you have one. Look for doubling in the letters or numbers, strange lines, or areas where the design looks misaligned. These could be signs of a minting error. Also, pay attention to the color. A bright, original red penny is usually more desirable than one that has turned brown over time. Collectors often classify pennies by their color, with red being the most valuable, followed by red-brown, and then brown. Another important step is to compare your coin with verified examples. Many collectors use online resources or coin grading services to confirm what they have. If you believe your coin might be valuable, you can even send it to a professional grading company to get an official evaluation. Now let's explore some fun and surprising details about the 2013 Lincoln penny. Did you know that billions of pennies are still produced every year, even though many people argue they should be discontinued? Despite debates about their usefulness, the penny continues to be part of everyday transactions in the United States. Another interesting fact is that it actually costs more than 1 cent to produce a penny. This has been true for years, yet the coin remains in circulation due to tradition and practicality. The Union Shield design on the reverse also carries symbolic meaning. The shield represents the strength and unity of the nation, while the banner across it stands for Congress and the federal government. It's a small coin, but it tells a big story about American identity. Collectors love the 2013 no-mint mark penny not because it's extremely rare, but because it represents a modern piece of a long and evolving history. It's accessible, easy to find, and yet still offers the thrill of discovery. Anyone can start searching for valuable coins, and sometimes, all it takes is a closer look at the change in your pocket. There's also something exciting about the idea that value can hide in plain sight. A coin that most people overlook could turn out to be a small treasure, especially if it has a unique error or is in exceptional condition. And that's what makes coin collecting so fascinating. It's not just about money. It's about history, detail, and the stories behind everyday objects. So the next time you come across a 2013 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a moment to examine it. Look at the details. Ask yourself if there's something unusual about it. Because sometimes, the smallest things carry the biggest surprises. And who knows, the next coin you pick up might not just be spare change. It might be a hidden piece of history waiting to be discovered. Welcome back. What if the penny sitting quietly in your pocket right now isn't just spare change, but a small piece of American history that could be worth far more than 1 cent? Today, we're taking a closer look at the 2014 D-Mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin that most people overlook, yet one that holds surprising stories, hidden details, and in some cases, unexpected value. At first glance, the 2014 D Lincoln penny looks like any other modern coin. It's small, copper-colored, and easy to ignore. But this coin carries a legacy that stretches back more than a century. The D Mint mark tells us it was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the key facilities responsible for producing coins used across the United States. Millions of these pennies were made, yet not all of them are created equal. To understand this coin, we need to go back to the origins of the Lincoln penny itself. The Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln on the 100th anniversary of his birth. It was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person instead of symbolic imagery like Lady Liberty. Over time, the design evolved, but Lincoln's portrait remained constant, becoming one of the most recognizable images in American coinage. By 2014, the penny had already gone through several design changes on the reverse side. Since 2010, the back of the coin has featured the Union Shield, symbolizing Lincoln's role in preserving the United States during the Civil War. This design was still in use in 2014, making the coin part of a modern era that blends historical meaning with contemporary production. Now let's talk about what makes the 2014 D penny unique. The coin is made primarily of zinc, with a thin copper plating. This change in composition happened in 1982, when rising copper prices forced the U.S. Mint to switch materials. So while it looks like solid copper, the inside is actually zinc. This detail might seem small, but it plays a big role in how the coin ages and how collectors evaluate it. On the front, you'll see the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right, along with the words, "In God We Trust," above, "Liberty" to the left, and the year 2014 to the right. Just below the year is the small but important D Mint mark, indicating it was produced in Denver. On the back, the Union Shield design features a bold shield with 13 vertical stripes, representing the original colonies, and a banner across the top reading E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one. So here's the big question. If millions of these coins were made, why would anyone consider them valuable? The answer lies in condition, errors, and collector demand. Most 2014 D pennies in circulation are only worth face value. But coins that are in pristine, uncirculated condition can be worth significantly more. Collectors often look for coins graded as MS65 or higher, which means they show no signs of wear and have strong luster. Even more interesting are minting errors. These are mistakes that happen during the production process, and they can turn an ordinary penny into something rare. For the 2014 D penny, some known errors include off-center strikes, double dies, and die cracks. A double die error occurs when the design is accidentally stamped twice, creating a noticeable doubling effect on letters or numbers. These errors are highly sought after because they are not supposed to happen. There have been cases where error coins from this year have sold for hundreds of dollars, depending on the severity and visibility of the mistake. For example, a well-preserved 2014 D penny with a clear double die or a dramatic off-center strike can attract serious attention from collectors. Even without errors, high-grade examples that are professionally graded and sealed can sell for several dollars, sometimes even more if they are near perfect. Another factor that adds interest to this coin is the sheer volume produced. The Denver Mint struck billions of pennies in 2014. With such a large number, it might seem like rarity is impossible. But in reality, finding one in flawless condition is much harder than it sounds. Most coins go straight into circulation, where they get scratched, worn, and damaged over time. That means truly perfect examples become scarce. Now, let's talk about how you can identify a genuine 2014 D penny and avoid fakes or altered coins. Start by examining the mint mark. It should be a small, cleanly stamped D, just below the date. If the mint mark looks uneven, unusually large, or tampered with, it could be a sign of alteration. Some people try to add or modify mint marks to make coins appear more valuable, so this is something to watch for. Next, check the weight. A genuine 2014 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. If it feels too heavy or too light, that could indicate a counterfeit or a damaged coin. Also, pay attention to the color and surface. Authentic coins will have a consistent copper tone, while fake ones might look too shiny or have an unnatural finish. If you believe you have a valuable coin, especially one with a potential error, it's a good idea to have it evaluated by a professional grading service. These experts can confirm authenticity, assign a grade, and seal the coin in a protective holder. This not only preserves the coin, but also increases its credibility and market value. Here's something surprising. Even though the penny is often considered the least valuable coin in everyday use, it remains one of the most collected. People of all ages enjoy searching through their change, hoping to find something rare. The 2014 D penny is part of that excitement. It reminds us that value isn't always obvious at first glance. There are also some fun facts about modern pennies that many people don't know. For instance, it actually costs more than 1 cent to produce a penny. This has led to ongoing debates about whether the coin should continue to be made. Yet despite these discussions, the penny remains a symbol of tradition and history. Another interesting detail is how quickly coins can travel. A 2014 D penny struck in Denver could have been used in dozens of different states within just a few years. Each coin carries its own journey, passing through countless hands, each transaction adding a small piece to its story. Collectors today love the 2014 D penny not because it's extremely rare, but because it represents a modern chapter in a long-running series. It's accessible, affordable, and still holds the potential for discovery. For new collectors, it's an easy starting point. For experienced collectors, it's another opportunity to find that one special coin that stands out from the rest. There's also a sense of connection that comes with collecting coins like this. Holding a Lincoln penny, even a modern one, links you to more than a century of American history. It's a reminder of how currency evolves, how designs change, and how even the smallest objects can carry deep meaning. And here's the most exciting part. The next valuable coin might already be in your possession. Could be sitting in a jar, tucked away in a drawer, or mixed in with your everyday change. Most people never take a second look, but those who do sometimes uncover something truly special. So the next time you come across a 2014 D Lincoln penny, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look. Check the details. Look for anything unusual, because hidden within something so small could be a story, a rarity, or even a small treasure waiting to be discovered. And that's what makes coin collecting so fascinating. It turns ordinary moments into opportunities for discovery. It invites you to slow down, pay attention, and see value where others see none. Who knows? The next penny you find might not just be a penny after all. Welcome back. Imagine picking up a simple penny from your pocket, barely giving it a second look, and then discovering that this tiny copper coin could be worth far more than 1 cent. Today, we're uncovering the story behind the 2016 D-Mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin that most people overlook, yet collectors quietly search for every single day at first glance. The 2016 D. Lincoln penny doesn't seem special. It looks like any modern penny you've seen hundreds of times. But hidden in its details, its history, and even its tiny imperfections, there's a story that connects American heritage, modern minting technology, and the thrill of discovery. This coin was minted in 2016 at the Denver Mint, which is why you'll see a small D stamped just below the date on the front. The Lincoln penny itself has been part of American life since 1909, when it was first introduced to honor President Abraham Lincoln. By 2016, this design had already gone through several changes over the decades, but it still carried the same iconic portrait that Americans recognize instantly. The front of the coin features Lincoln's profile, calm and dignified, facing to the right. Above his head is the word Liberty, and just in front of him is the year 2016. Beneath the date sits that small but important D mint mark, telling you it came from Denver. On the back, you'll find the Union Shield design, which was introduced in 2010. This shield represents the unity of the states, with a banner across it reading E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one. Now here's where things get interesting. Even though millions of these pennies were produced, not all 2016 D pennies are equal. In fact, some of them carry small differences and rare errors that can turn an ordinary coin into something much more valuable. Before we talk about value, let's look at what this coin is made of. Like most modern pennies, the 2016 D Lincoln cent is not solid copper. It's primarily made of zinc, with a thin copper plating. This gives it that familiar copper color, but inside, it's mostly zinc. This change in composition actually happened back in 1982, when the cost of copper became too high for the mint. Because of this layered structure, modern pennies are more vulnerable to certain types of errors. And that's exactly where collectors start paying attention. One of the most talked about features in 2016 D pennies is the possibility of minting errors. These can include off-center strikes, where the design is slightly shifted, making the coin look misaligned. There are also double die errors, where parts of the design appear slightly duplicated, especially in the lettering or numbers. These are not easy to spot with the naked eye, but under magnification they become clear. Another type of error involves the plating itself. Since the coin is copper-plated zinc, sometimes the plating process isn't perfect. This can result in bubbles, cracks, or even areas where the zinc core is exposed. While some of these might look like damage, certain types are actually considered mint errors and can attract collectors. You might be wondering, how rare can a 2016 D penny really be if so many were made? The truth is, the rarity doesn't come from the total number minted. It comes from how few of them have these unique features in pristine condition. Coins are graded based on their condition, ranging from heavily worn to perfect mint state. A 2016 D penny that has been in circulation, scratched and faded, will usually only be worth face value. But a coin that has never been used, with sharp details and no visible wear, can be worth significantly more to collectors. For example, a high-grade 2016 D penny, graded as MS67 or higher, can sell for several dollars, sometimes even more depending on demand. That might not sound like a fortune, but remember, this is a coin that most people would spend without thinking twice. Now, when you add a rare error into the mix, the value can increase dramatically. Some error coins from recent years have sold for tens or even hundreds of dollars, simply because they are unique and difficult to find. There have been auction listings where collectors paid premium prices for 2016 D pennies with clear double die features or striking errors. While these are not everyday finds, they do exist, and they often show up in the most unexpected places like old jars, coin rolls, or even your loose change. So how can you tell if you have a valuable 2016 D penny? First, look at the condition. A shiny, uncirculated coin with crisp details is always more desirable. Next, Check the mint mark. Make sure the D is clearly visible and not altered in any way. Then, take a closer look at the design. Pay attention to the numbers in the date, the word liberty, and the motto "In God We Trust." If you notice any doubling, unusual spacing, or distortions, you might be looking at something special. Using a magnifying glass or a simple coin loop can make a big difference. Many valuable details are too small to see clearly with the naked eye. It's also important to know the difference between a real error and simple damage. Scratches, dents, and discoloration caused by everyday use are common and usually don't add value. True mint errors happen during the production process, and they often have a distinct, recognizable pattern. If you believe you've found something unusual, you can compare it with verified examples online or even consider having it evaluated by a professional coin grading service. Here's a surprising fact. Many collectors actually enjoy searching through rolls of pennies from banks, hoping to find hidden gems like these. It's like a treasure hunt where the cost of entry is incredibly low, but the excitement is real. Another interesting detail about the 2016 penny is how it reflects modern coin production. Unlike older coins, which were often made with simpler methods, today's coins are produced with advanced technology that aims for precision and consistency. That's why errors are less common now, making them even more desirable when they do appear. Collectors also appreciate the 2016 D penny because it represents a continuation of a long tradition. The Lincoln cent is one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. Holding a 2016 penny is like holding a small piece of that ongoing story. And let's not forget the emotional side of collecting. For many people, coins are more than just money. They're memories. They're history you can hold in your hand. A simple penny can remind someone of childhood, of saving coins in a jar, or of the thrill of finding something unexpected. That's part of what makes the 2016 D Lincoln penny so interesting. It's modern, it's common, and yet it still carries the possibility of being something rare and valuable. Collectors today love coins like this because they combine accessibility with potential. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars to start. You just need curiosity, patience, and a willingness to look closely at the details most people ignore as time goes on. Coins from recent years can become harder to find in perfect condition. People use them, damage them, or simply lose them. That means the number of high-quality examples slowly decreases, which can increase their value over time. So the next time you come across a 2016 D penny, don't just toss it aside. Take a moment to look at it. Check the details. Examine the surface. You might be holding something more interesting than you think. Because in the world of coin collecting, value isn't always obvious. Sometimes, it's hidden in the smallest details, waiting for someone curious enough to notice. And that's what makes this journey so exciting. Every coin has a story. Every detail matters. And every once in a while, an ordinary penny turns out to be anything but ordinary. So keep looking, keep learning, and who knows? The next valuable coin might already be in your pocket, just waiting to be discovered. Welcome back. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a simple penny, and realizing that this small copper coin could be worth far more than just 1 cent. It sounds unbelievable, but for some collectors, the 2017 D Lincoln penny holds surprises that most people overlook every single day. The 2017 D Lincoln penny is a modern coin, struck at the Denver Mint in the United States. At first glance, it looks just like any other penny you might see in your change. It features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Union Shield design on the back. But like many coins, its true story goes far beyond its simple appearance. To understand this coin, we need to go back to why it was made. The Lincoln penny has been part of American currency since 1909, created to honor President Abraham Lincoln. Over the years, its design has changed, but its purpose has remained the same: everyday use. By 2017, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies each year to keep up with demand. The D Mint mark on this coin tells us it was made in Denver, one of the main minting facilities in the country. Now here's where things get interesting. Even though millions of these coins were made, not all 2017 D pennies are created equal. Some carry subtle differences that can make them stand out to collectors. These differences often come from small errors during the minting process, and those errors can turn an ordinary coin into something far more valuable. The coin itself is made primarily of zinc, with a thin copper coating. This composition has been used since 1982, replacing the older, heavier copper pennies. The front of the coin shows a detailed portrait of Abraham Lincoln, originally designed by Victor David Brenner. You'll notice the word Liberty to the left, the year 2017 to the right, and the small D mint mark just below the date. On the reverse side, the Union Shield design represents the strength and unity of the United States. The shield is carefully crafted with vertical stripes and a banner across the top reading E pluribus unum, which means out of many, one. It's a powerful symbol, even on such a small coin. But what truly captures the attention of collectors are the rare errors and unusual variations found in some 2017 D pennies. One of the most talked about issues is die errors. These happen when the metal dies used to strike the coins develop cracks, chips, or other imperfections. When that happens, every coin struck with that die carries the same flaw. For example, some collectors have discovered 2017 D pennies with die cracks that look like raised lines running across the coin surface. Others have found coins with slight doubling in the lettering or design elements, known as double die errors. These may be hard to spot at first, but under closer inspection, they can make a coin far more desirable. There are also off-center strikes, where the design is not perfectly aligned, leaving part of the coin blank. While these errors are rare, they are highly sought after by collectors because they are so unusual. So why would a coin like this be valuable if millions were made? The answer lies in rarity within abundance. While the total number of 2017 D pennies is very high, the number of coins with unique errors or in perfect condition is much smaller. Collectors are always searching for coins that stand out, and even a tiny flaw can make a big difference. Condition plays a huge role as well. Coins that are uncirculated, meaning they have never been used in everyday transactions, can be worth more. These coins often have a bright, clean appearance with no scratches or wear. Some are graded by professional services and given high ratings, which can significantly increase their value. In terms of real-world value, most 2017 D pennies are only worth face value, just 1 cent. But error coins or high-grade examples can sell for much more. Some have been listed online for several dollars, while certain rare error varieties have reached prices of $50 or more, depending on their condition and uniqueness. While these amounts may not seem life-changing, they show how even modern coins can become collectible. If you're wondering how to tell if you have a valuable 2017 D penny, there are a few things to look for. Start by checking the mint mark. It should clearly show a D under the year. Next, examine the coin closely under good lighting. Look for unusual marks, doubling in the letters, or any design that seems slightly off. You can also use a magnifying glass to get a better view of the details. Pay attention to the edges of the letters and numbers. If they appear doubled or blurred, it could indicate a minting error. Also check for any raised lines or cracks that shouldn't be there. Another important step is to compare your coin with standard images of a 2017 D penny. This can help you spot differences more easily. If you believe you found something unusual, you may want to have it evaluated by a professional coin dealer or grading service. Now let's talk about something many people don't consider: the difference between a real coin and a fake. While counterfeit pennies are not very common due to their low value, it's still possible, especially when a coin is believed to have a rare error. Fake coins may have incorrect weight, unusual color, or poorly defined details. A genuine 2017 D penny should weigh about 2.5 grams and have a smooth, even finish. If something feels off, it's worth taking a closer look. Professionals use precise tools to confirm authenticity, so when in doubt, expert verification is always the safest option. Here's a surprising fact. Even though the penny is often overlooked, it has one of the most detailed designs in U.S. coinage. The level of craftsmanship involved in creating each coin is impressive, especially considering how many are produced each year. Every line, every letter, and every detail is carefully engraved into the dies that strike these coins. Another interesting detail is that the cost to produce a penny is actually higher than its face value. This has led to ongoing debates about whether the penny should continue to be made. Yet despite this, the coin remains an important part of American culture and history. Collectors are drawn to the 2017 D penny not because it is old, but because it represents the idea that value can be hidden in plain sight. It reminds people that even the most ordinary objects can have extraordinary stories. There's also a sense of excitement in searching for these coins. Unlike rare coins that are locked away in collections, the 2017 D penny can still be found in everyday circulation. This means anyone, anywhere, has a chance to discover something special just by paying attention. For many collectors, the thrill is not just about money. It's about the hunt, the history, and the connection to something bigger. Each coin carries a piece of the past, even if it was made just a few years ago. As we come to the end, think about this. How many times have you ignored a penny on the ground or tossed one aside without a second thought? What if that coin had a story you never noticed or a detail that made it unique? The 2017 D Lincoln penny may look ordinary, but it proves that even the smallest things can hold hidden value. The next time you come across a penny, take a closer look. You might just discover that what seems common is actually something worth holding on to. And who knows, the next coin you find could be the one that turns your curiosity into something truly rewarding. Welcome back. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a simple penny, and discovering it might be worth far more than 1 cent. Not because it's old, not because it's made of silver or gold, but because of small details most people never even notice. Today, we're uncovering the hidden story behind the 2018 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny, a modern coin that could surprise you in ways you never expected at first glance. The 2018 D Lincoln penny looks like any other coin you'd receive in everyday change. It's small, copper-colored, and often overlooked. But this particular penny was struck at the Denver Mint, which is why you'll see the small letter D just below the date on the front. While millions of these coins were produced, certain versions have caught the attention of collectors across the country. To understand why this coin matters, we need to step back for a moment. The Lincoln penny has been a part of American history since 1909, created to honor President Abraham Lincoln. It was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person, marking a major shift in coin design. Over the years, the design has changed several times, but Lincoln has remained on the front, becoming one of the most recognizable faces in American currency. By 2018, the penny had already gone through more than a century of evolution. That year, the U.S. Mint continued producing pennies primarily for circulation, even though many people questioned whether the coin was still necessary in a modern economy. Despite that debate, billions of pennies were minted, including a large number from Denver, carrying the D Mint mark. Now here's where things get interesting. Even though the 2018 D penny is modern, it still has features that collectors pay close attention to. The coin is made mostly of zinc, with a thin copper plating. This gives it that classic copper appearance, even though it's not solid copper like older pennies from before 1982. On the front, you'll see Abraham Lincoln's portrait, along with the words, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the year 2018. On the back, the design introduced in 2010 continues, showing a shield that represents Lincoln's role in preserving the United States during the Civil War. But what really makes some 2018 D pennies stand out are the small variations and errors that occurred during the minting process. These errors are often what turn an ordinary coin into something valuable. For example, some collectors have reported coins with off-center strikes, where the design is not perfectly aligned. Others have found coins with weak or missing details, known as strike-through errors, caused by debris interfering during production. There are also cases of double die errors, where parts of the design appear slightly duplicated due to a misalignment in the die used to strike the coin. These are not always easy to spot, but when they are confirmed, they can significantly increase the coin's value. Another factor that can make a 2018 D penny valuable is its condition. Most pennies in circulation quickly develop scratches, wear, and discoloration. But coins that remain in near-perfect condition, often called mint state, are much harder to find. These coins have sharp details, clean surfaces, and strong luster, making them highly desirable among collectors. So how much can a 2018 D Lincoln penny actually be worth? In most cases, a regular circulated coin is still worth just 1 cent. But when you start looking at uncirculated coins or those with grading from professional services, the value can rise. High-grade examples have sold for several dollars, and in rare cases, coins with exceptional quality or unique errors have reached prices of $50, $100, or even more at auctions. It may not sound like life-changing money, but remember, this is a coin that many people ignore or spend without thinking. The idea that something so common could carry extra value is what keeps collectors searching through their change. If you think you might have a valuable 2018 D penny, there are a few things to check. First, look closely at the mint mark under the date. It should clearly show the letter D. Next, examine the coin's surface. Are the details sharp? Is there any unusual doubling in the letters or numbers? Do you notice anything off about the alignment of the design? You'll also want to check the coin's weight. A standard 2018 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. If the weight is significantly different, it could indicate an error or, in rare cases, a counterfeit. While counterfeit pennies are not very common, they do exist, especially when collectors start paying higher prices for certain varieties. Magnification can be your best friend here. Even a simple magnifying glass can help you spot details that are invisible to the naked eye. Serious collectors often use microscopes or specialized tools to inspect their coins closely. Now here's something many people don't realize. Even modern coins like the 2018 D penny can become more valuable over time. As years pass, fewer coins remain in perfect condition. Many are lost, damaged, or worn down through circulation. This means that high-quality examples become rarer, increasing their demand among collectors. There are also some fun and surprising facts about this coin. For example, billions of pennies are produced each year, yet the cost to make each one is actually higher than its face value. This has led to ongoing debates about whether the penny should continue to be minted at all. If production ever stops, coins like the 2018 D penny could gain historical significance as part of the final years of penny production. Another interesting detail is how collectors often build entire sets of Lincoln pennies, organizing them by year and mint mark. The 2018 D penny plays a role in completing these collections, especially for those who want every variation in the series. Collectors love this coin not because it's rare in the traditional sense, but because it represents opportunity. It reminds people that valuable coins are not always locked away in museums or private collections. Sometimes, they're hiding in plain sight, mixed in with everyday change. The excitement comes from the possibility. The idea that you could discover something valuable without spending a fortune is what draws so many people into coin collecting. It's not just about money. It's about the hunt, the history, and the connection to something bigger than yourself. And that brings us back to where we started. A simple penny, often ignored, often overlooked. But once you understand what to look for, it becomes something entirely different. It becomes a story, a piece of history, and maybe even a small treasure waiting to be found. So the next time you come across a 2018 D Lincoln penny, don't just toss it aside. Take a closer look, because hidden in that tiny piece of metal could be a detail that changes the way you see coins forever.